Welcome back, everybody. Every now and then, there is a special person that comes in and supports me in this way that blows me away. And today we have Matt Bannister, who is one of those people. So thank you, Matt, for being here today. This is an honor on many fronts. So thank you for being here.
No, thank you for bringing me on, Kim. This is like a huge honor, and I'm so grateful to be on. This is just amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. It's great to be here.
You're number one, you have been such a support to me in CBT school and all the things that I'm doing. And I've loved sort of hearing your updates and so forth around that. But today, I really want you to come on and tell your story of, from start to beginning, whatever, to start to end, whatever you want to share. Tell us about you and your recovery story.
Sure. I mean, I would like to start as well saying that your CBT school is amazing. It is so awesome. It's helped me big time in my recovery. So I recommend that to everyone. But yeah, I'm an IOCF grassroots advocate. I am super passionate about it. I love being involved with the community, connecting with the community. It's like a big family.
Yeah.
So I'm so honored to be a part of this amazing community. Yeah, my recovery story and my journey started. It started back in 2009 when I remember. This is going to show how old I am right now. I remember talking on MSN, and I remember my mind. I was talking, my mind went blank in a conversation, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird." It's like my mind's gone blank, but that's just like a normal thing. I can just pass it off and then keep going forward. But the thing is with me, it didn't. It kind of latched on with that. I didn't know what was going on with me. It was very frightening. I believe that was the start for me with depersonalization and dissociation. I just had no idea of what it was. Super scary. It was like I couldn't really. I started to forget like part of my social life and how to communicate with people. And I really did start to dissociate a lot when I was getting nervous. And that went on for about 3 or 4 years, but it kind of gradually faded naturally. So,
So you had depersonalization and derealization? And if so, can you kind of explain to listeners what the differences were, how you could tell the differences?
yeah, I think with maybe if I'm right with this, with the depersonalization, it kind of felt like I knew how I was, but I kind of didn't at the same time. It was like when I was looking to a mirror, it's like looking at a stranger. That's how it felt. It just felt like I became a shell of myself. And again, I just didn't know what was happening. It was really scary. I think it made it worse. And with my former friends at that time, we'd kind of make fun of that. Like, oh, come on, you're not yourself anymore. You're not as confident anymore. You know, what's going on? And used to try and take the mick a lot with that. With the dissociation, it kind of felt like I was having the out of body experience. So for me, if I was sat in a room and it was really hitting me hard, as if I was anxious, it would felt like I was floating around that room. I couldn't concentrate. It was very difficult to focus on things, especially if it was at work. It'd be very hard to do so.
Yeah.
So that came on and off.
Yeah. It's such a scary feeling. I've had it a lot in my life too, and I get it. It makes you start to question reality, question even your mental health. It's such a scary experience, especially the first time you have it. I remember my first time I was actually with a client when it started.
Yeah, it is. Again, it's just a frightening experience. It felt like it was even when I was walking through places, like it was just a fog all the time. That's how it kind of felt.
Yeah.
And it felt like someone placed a curse on me.
Yep.
I really believe that.
Yep.
With those feelings, and how else can I explain it? But yeah, that did eventually fade, luckily, in about, like I say, 3 to 4 years, just naturally on its own. I think when I have those sensations, I kind of got used to that, so I didn't put as much emphasis on those situations. Then I carried on naturally through that. Then, well, with going through actually depersonalization, unfortunately, that's when my OCD did hit. For me, it was with, I believe, relationship OCD for me, because I was with someone at the time. I was constantly like always checking on them, see if they loved me. Like, am I boring you because I thought I did personalization? I thought I wasn't being my full authentic self, that you didn't want to be with me anymore. So I would constantly check my messages. If they didn't put enough kisses on the end of a message, I would think, oh, they don't love me as much anymore. Oh no, I have to check.
Yeah.
And all the time, like, even in phone calls, I always made sure to hear that my partner would say, oh, I love you back, or I love you. Otherwise, I thought I did something wrong, like they're going off me. And then I spiraled, thinking this person going to cheat on me. And it went on and on and on and on with that. But eventually, again, the relationship did fade in a natural way. It wasn't because of the OCD. It was just how it went. And then with relationship OCD, with that, I kind of faded with that. As such, with my friends, didn't really affect me with that. So then, what I can recall, what I have maybe experienced with OCD, I've had sexual orientation OCD. So again, I was questioning my sexuality. I'm a heterosexual, and I was in another warehouse, computer warehouse, and there was all males there, and I was getting I describe it as intrusive thoughts of like images of like doing like sexual acts or kissing and stuff like that. I'm thinking, why am I getting these thoughts? I know where my sexuality is. There's nothing wrong, obviously, with being homosexual or in queer. Nothing wrong with that at all. It's just like I said, that's how it kind of phased with me. I mean, it could happen again with someone who's queer, and they could be getting heterosexual thoughts, and they don't want that because they know they're comfortable with their sexuality. But OCD is trying to doubt that.
Yeah.
But then again, for me, that kind of did gradually fade again, about 5 or 6 months, just on its own right. And then fast forward 2 years later is when the most severe theme of OCD I've ever had hit me hard like a ton of bricks. And that for me was Visual Tourrettic OCD, known as Staring OCD, known as Ocular Tourrettic OCD. And that was horrendous. The stigma I received with this theme was awful. I remember the day when it hit me, when I was talking to a female colleague, like we all do. We'd all look around the room and we try and think of something to say, but my eyes just landed on the chest, like, just an innocent look. And I like, oh my God, why did I do that? I don't want to disrespect this person in front of me. I treat her as an equal. I treat everyone the same way. I don't want to feel like she's being disrespected. So I heavily maintain eye contact after that. Throughout that conversation, it was fine. It was normal, nothing different. But after that, it really latched onto
Mm.
me big time. The rumination was massive. It was like you got to make sure you're giving every single female colleague now eye contact. You have to do it because otherwise what stigma you could get.
Right.
And that went on for months and years, and it progressed to men as well a couple of years later. And it felt like my mind couldn't function anymore. I remember again, I was sitting next to my friend who was having a game on the PlayStation. And then I just looked at his lap, just for no reason, just looked at his lap. And he said, oh, I feel cold. I want to go and change. And I instantly thought, oh my God, is it because he thought I might have stared there? Have I creeped him out? And then it just seriously latched onto me big time. As we all know, with this as well, when we think of the pink elephant allergy, so when we don't think of the pink elephant, what do we do?
Yeah.
And that's what it was very much like with this. I remember when it was starting to get really bad, like my eyes would dart at embarrassing body part places. It was like the more anxious I felt about it, of not wanting to do it, the more it happened. Where me and my good friend Carol Edwards call it a tick with the eye movement. So like Tourette's, let's say, when you get really nervous, and I don't know if this is all true. When someone's really nervous, maybe they might laugh involuntarily, like from the Joker movie, or like someone swearing out loud. This is the same kind of thing with eye movement. And every time I was talking to a colleague face to face, I was giving them eye contact, my mind would be saying to me, don't look there, don't look there, don't look there. And unfortunately, it would happen. That tick would happen. It would land where I wouldn't want it to land.
Mm.
And it was very embarrassing because eventually it did get noticed. I remember seeing female colleagues like covering their high vis tops, like, across their arms. Men would cover their crotches. They would literally cross their legs very blatantly in front of me. Then I could start to hear gossip. And this is when it got really bad because I really heard the stigma from this. No one confronted me, by the way, with this face to face, but I could hear it crystal clear. They were calling me all sorts, like deviant or a creep or a perv. Have you seen his eyes? Have you seen him looking? He does that weird things with his eyes. He checks everyone out. It was really soul destroying because I wanted to. My compulsion was to get away from everyone. I would literally hide across a room where no one else was around. I would hide in the cubicles because it was the only place that I wasn't triggered. It got bad again. It went to my family, my friends, everyone around me. Adult. It didn't happen with children, but it happened with every adult,
Yeah.
and it was horrendous. I reached out to therapy. Luckily, I did get in contact with a CBT therapist, but it was talk therapy. But it's better than nothing. I will absolutely take that, and she was amazing. I can't credit my therapist enough. She was awesome. So if this person maybe this is like Grace, you're amazing. So thank you for that. And she was really there for me. It was someone I could really talk to and like you can help me and like understand as best as she could. She did, I believe, further research into what I had, and then that's when I finally got diagnosed that I had OCD. I never knew this was OCD. And everything else made sense. Like, oh, this is why I was going through all those things before. It all now makes concrete sense what I was going through. Then I looked up the Facebook group called Peripheral Vision / Visual Tourrettic OCD. That was a game changer for me. Finally knew that I wasn't alone because with this, you really think you're alone.
Yeah.
And you are not. There are thousands of people with this or even more. And that was truly validating. I was like, thank God I'm not the only one. But problem is, I didn't really talk in that group at first because I thought if other people might have saw me writing in that group, it's going to really kill my reputation big time. That'll be like the final nail in the coffin. Even though it was a private group, no one could do that, but I didn't still trust it that much that time. I was doing ERP, and I thought, great, because I've researched ERP. I knew that it's effective. Obviously, it's the gold standard. But for me, unfortunately, I think I was doing it where I was kind of white knuckling through exposures. And also, when I was hearing at work, still going back to my most triggering place, ERP unfortunately wasn't working for me because I wasn't healing. It was like I was going through the trigger constantly. My mind was just so overwhelmed. I didn't have time to heal. I remember I eventually self isolated in my room. I didn't go anywhere. I locked myself away because I thought I just can't cope anymore. It was a really dark moment. I remember crying. It was just so, it was just like despair. It was like, I was like, what's happening to me? Why is all this happening to me? Um, but yeah, later on, I did have the choice at work. I thought to myself, I can either go through this still this hellacious process, or I can choose to go on sick leave and give my chance to heal and recover. So that's what I did. And that was the best decision I ever made. And I recommend that to anyone who's going through OCD severely. You always have a choice. You always have a choice. Never pressure yourself or think you're weak or anything like that, because that's not the case. You are a warrior. When you're going through things like this, you are the most strongest person in the world. And it takes a lot of courage to confront those demons every single day. So never ever doubt yourself with that. You are a strong, amazing individual. And when I did that, again, I could heal. I took 2 weeks. Unfortunately, my therapy ended. I only had 10 sessions, but I had to wait another 3 months for further therapy in person. So I thought, oh, at least I do eventually get therapy in person. That's amazing. Then the best thing happened to me. I found the IOCDF community. Everything changed. The IOCDF are amazing. The best community, in my opinion, in the world for OCD. My God, I remember when I first went on Ethan's live stream with community conversations, and I was like, and I reached out to Ethan, and he sent me links for OCD UK. I think OCD Action as well. So that was really cool of him and great. And I super appreciate that. And he knew straight away because I remember watching this video with Jonathan Grayson, who is also an amazing guy and therapist,
Yep.
talking about this. And I was like, this is all what I have. So then after that, I reached out to Chris Trons and asked the experts. And what Chris said was so game changing to me because he's gone through this as well and has overcome it. and he's overcome so many severe themes of OCD. I'm like, this guy is amazing. Like, he is an absolute rock star, like, literally, like a true champion. For someone to go through as much as he has and to be where he is today, I can't ask for any more inspirement from that. It's just incredible. And he gave some advice as well in that video, sorry, the live stream, when was talking, because I reached out and said, how did you overcome this? And he said with the staring OCD, he said, well, I basically told myself, well, I'm staring, well, I might as well stare anyway. And that kind of clicked with me because I'm thinking he's basically saying that he just didn't give it value anymore. And I'm like, that's what I've been doing all this time. I've given so much value, so much importance. That's why it keeps happening to me. I'm like, okay, I can maybe try and work with this. Then I started connecting with Katie O'Dunn, who is also amazing. She was the first person I actually did hear about self-compassion. I'm like, yes, why didn't I learn about this early in my life? Self-compassion is amazing. I need to know all about this. It makes so much sense. Why do I have to keep beating myself up? When I treat a friend like what? When I talk to myself about this? No, I wouldn't. So yeah, no, when I just watched Katie's streams and watched her videos on Instagram, it was just an eye opener for me, and I was like, wow, she's talking about like bring it on mindset as well with this. Like, say when you're about to face the brave thing, just say bring it on, just bring on like the rock says, just bring it. And I just love that. So that's what I did. That's what I started doing. I connected with as well with my friend Carol Edwards, who is also a former therapist and is the author of many books. One of them was Address Staring OCD. If anyone's going through this as well, I really recommend that book. Carol is amazing, amazing person, such a intelligent woman. And when I met Carol, it was like the first time in my life I was like, wow, I'm actually talking to someone who's got the same theme as me. And a lot of other themes I've gone through, she has as well. And we just totally got each other. I was like, finally, I'm validated. I can talk to someone who gets it truly. And that really helped, let's say, when I started to learn about value based exposures. And I remember again there, Katie, Elizabeth McInvale, Ethan, and yeah, Chris. I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm going to do it that way because I just did ERP before I was white knuckling. I never thought of it doing it in a value based way. So I thought to myself, okay, well, what has OCD taken away that I enjoy most doing? So that's what I did. I kind of created a hierarchy, or like even in my mind. So I thought, well, the cinema, restaurants, coffee shops, going to concerts, eventually going on holiday again, see my friends, family is probably most important. And I started doing it in baby steps. And I remember as well, I asked Chris and Liz, how do I open up to this to my family? Because I got to a point where it's like, I just can't hide behind a mask anymore. I need someone else to know who's really close to me. So Chris gave me some amazing advice and Liz, and they said that if you show documents, articles, videos about this, long as they have a great understanding of mental health and OCD, you should be okay. And that's what I did. They know I had OCD. I've told them I had OCD, but not the theme I had. And when I showed them documents and videos, it was so nerve-wracking, I won't lie. But it was the best thing I ever did because then when they watched that, they came to me and said, why didn't you tell us about this before? So I thought you wouldn't understand or grasp this. Like, I know OCD awareness in UK is not the best, and especially with this theme. But they said, no, after watching that, like, we're on your team. We will support you. We are here for you. We will do exposures with you. And they gave me a massive hug afterwards. I was like, oh my God, it's like, this is the best scenario for me ever because then I can really amplify my recovery. This is where it started really kicking on for me now. So everything I've learned, again, from those videos watching with the streams from IUCDF, I incorporated. So basically, when I was going to go to the cinema at first, I know that the cinema is basically darkness. When you walk through there, no one's really going to notice you. Yeah, they might see you in their peripheral vision, but they're going to be more like concentrating on that movie than me. So that was my mindset. I was like, well, if I was like the other person, and I didn't have VTO and the other person did, would I be more concentrated on them or the movie? And for me, it would be obviously the movie. Why would I else? Unless they were doing something really like vigorous or dancing in front of me, I'm not going to look. So yeah, and that's like my mindset. The anxiety was there. I will be honest. It was about an 80%. But I had my value because I was going to watch a film that I really wanted to watch. I'm a big Marvel fan. It was Black Panther Wakanda, and I really enjoyed that. It was a long movie as well. I went with my friend. We get on very, very well, and they like for me as well with this trigger. Like I get triggered when people can move as well next to me. I'm very hyper vigilant with this, so that can include with me with peripheral as well. But even though my eyes, let's say they died, it was okay. Instead of beating myself up, I can tell myself this is OCD. I know what this is. It doesn't define me, and I'm going to enjoy watching this movie as much as I can and give myself that compassion to do so. And that I was like, after that moment, it was like, wow, it was like, even though I was still triggered, I enjoyed it. I wasn't just wanting to get out of there. I enjoyed being there. And that was the starting of the turning point for me. Because then I went to like places like KFC. I miss KFC. I love my chicken bucket. I won't lie with that. So that was a big value. You gotta love the chicken bucket, folks. And it was great. Like, well, I had my parents around me, so that they know I was pretty anxious still. But I was there. I was enjoying my chicken again. I was like, I miss this so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the best thing is as well. I remember when I left that restaurant, they said to me, "We're so proud of you," and that helps so much because when you're hearing feedback like that, it just gives you a huge pat on the back.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I've just done a big scary thing. I could have been caught. I could have been ridiculed. I could have been made fun of. People may have gossiped about me, but I took that leap of faith because I knew it's better than keep isolating, where in my room, being in prison, not living a life. I deserve to live a life.
Mm.
I deserve to do that.
Yeah.
I'm a human being. I deserve to be a part of the human society. So after that, my recovery started to progress. I went with my friend Carol to more coffee shops. We started talking about advocacy, powerful stuff, because when you have another reason and a why to recover, that's a huge one. When you can inspire and empower others to recover, it gives you so much more of a purpose to do it because you want to be like that role model, that champion for the people. It really gives you great motive to keep going forward with that and that motivation. And then I went to restaurants with my family for the first time in years. Instead of making excuses, instead of compulsion, people would still walk by me in my peripheral, but I had the mindset, like Kate said, you know what, just bring it on, just bring it. So I went in there. I know I was still pretty anxious, and I sat in my phone. I'm going to tell myself using mindfulness this time that I'm going to enjoy the smell of the food coming in. I'm going to enjoy the conversation with my family instead of thinking of, let's say, the worst case scenario. And the same with a waiter or waitress coming by. I'm just going to have my order. And again, yeah, my eyes could die. They may spit in my food. Who knows? But I'm going to take that leap of faith because, again, it's worth this. It is my why to get my life back. And that's why I did it. And I remember I enjoyed that meal and I enjoyed talking to my family. It was probably the first time in years where I wasn't proper triggered. I was like, that was my aha moment right there. The first time in years where my eyes didn't dart or anything, I just enjoyed being in a normal situation. And it was so great to feel that, so validating.
So
And then,
the
like,
more triggered you were, the harder it was to not stare. Is that how it was?
yes,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. The more triggered I was going down that rabbit hole, the more, let's say, would happen because my eyes would dart like up and down. It'd be quite frantic, like up and down, not up and down. Everyone's not the same. Everyone's different with this,
Yeah.
but that's what mine would be like. Like, so that's how I would kind of call it a tick in that
Yep.
sense.
Yep.
But when we feel calm, obviously, and the rumination's not there, or let's say the trigger, then it's got no reason to happen, or be very rare when it does. So it's like retraining, learn to retrain my mind in that sense to incorporate that into doing these exposures. And again, that's what was great about opening up to my family. I could kind of practice that at home because then when I'm sitting with my family, I'd still be triggered to a degree, but they know what I have. They're not gonna judge me or
Yeah.
reject me or anything like that. So my brain kind of healed naturally.
Yeah.
So the more I sat next to my family, I could bring that with, like, say, the public again and not feel like trigger. I could feel at ease instead of feeling constantly on edge. And again, going to coffee shops, like looking around the room, like you say so amazingly, Kim, like using your five senses. I did that, like looking around, looking at billboards, smelling the coffee again, enjoying the taste of it, enjoying the conversation, just enjoying the surroundings where I am instead of focusing on the prime fear. And that's what really helped brought me back in the present, being in the here and the now. And that was monumental. Such a huge tool. And I recommend that to everyone. Mindfulness is very, very, very powerful for doing, let's say, your exposures and to maintain recovery. It's just a game changer. I can't recommend that enough. And like my one of my biggest milestones with recovery, when I hit it for the first time again in years, I went to a live rock concert full of 10,000 people. There would be no way a year prior that would I go.
What rock concert? I have to know.
Oh, I went to Hollywood Vampires.
Oh, how wonderful. That must have been
Thank
such
you.
like a fish, like felt like you crossed a massive marathon finish line to get that thing
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, oh yeah. It was huge. To see, like I say, at Alice Cooper, Johnny Depp, and I think I can't remember this, Joe Perry from Aerosmith. I can't remember the drummer's name. I apologize. But it was great. And you know what? I rocked out. I told myself, I've come this far in my journey. I'm gonna rock out. I'm gonna enjoy myself. I don't care, let's say, where my eyes may go, and that's telling OCD that. I'm just going to be there in the moment and enjoy rocking out. And then that's exactly what I did. I rocked out big time. I remember even the lead singer from the prior band pointing at me and waving. I would have been so triggered by that before, but now I waved back and just gave him the rock on sign, and it was great.
There's so much joy in that too, right? Like you were like so willing to be triggered that you rocked out. Like that's how willing you
Yes.
were to do that work. It's so cool, this story.
Yeah, and like as well, the funny part as well, the guy next to me actually spilled beer all over himself. That would have been so triggering against me before, like saying body some embarrassing body part places. Whereas this time I just laughed it off and I had a joke with him and he got the beer. And it was like a normal situation, nothing weird or anything. Like his wife, I remember looking at my peripheral, was just cross-legged, but hey, that's just a relaxing position like anyone else would do. And that's what I told myself. It's not because of me thinking, oh, he's a weirdo or a creep. It's because she's just being relaxed and comfortable. And that's just retraining my mind that. And again, refocusing back to the concert. And again, rocking out to Alice Cooper, which was amazing. So
So good.
yeah, I really enjoyed it. And that was just like, I just thought it's just incredible from where I was a year ago without seeing, it got to a point where I'd isolate myself. I heard the worst stigma imaginable to go to the other aspect, the whole end of the other tunnel, the light of the tunnel, and enjoy myself and being free.
Mm.
And I love what Elizabeth McInvale says with that, freedom over function.
Yeah.
And that's exactly at that point where that's where I was. And I'm very lucky to this day. That's where I've maintained it. Sometimes I still do get triggered, but it's okay because I know it's OCD. We all know there's no cure, but we can keep it in remission. We can live a happy life regardless, and we just use the tools that we've learned. And again, for me, values-based exposure in that way was game changing. Self-compassion was game changing. I forgot to mention I had intrusive thoughts with sexual images as well with this, which was very distressing. But when I had those images more and more, I basically what I learned again from Katie. I was like, yeah, you know what? Bring it on. I say, turn it up, crank it up, and eventually the images stopped because I wasn't giving fear factor to it. I was giving it the opposite of basically giving it the talk to the hand analogy, and that worked so well. And like I see OCD like as well, like from Harry Potter, I see OCD as the boggart, where when you confront the boggart, it's going to come to your most scariest thing, but you have that power of choice right there and then to cast a spell and say ridiculous, as it says in the Harry Potter movies, and it'll transform into something silly or something that you can transform yourself with compassion and love. And OCD can't touch you with that. It can't. It becomes powerless, and that's why I love that scene from that film. Patrick McGrath says it so well with the Pennywise analogy. The more fear we feed the beast, the monster, the more stronger it becomes. But when we learn to give ourselves self-compassion and love, and again using mindfulness and value and knowing who we authentically are, truly, it can do nothing. It becomes powerless. It can stay in the back seat. It might try and rear its ugly head again, but you have the more and the power in the world to bring it back,
Mm.
and you can be firmly in that driver's wheel.
So good. How long did it take you, this process? Like, was it a short period of time, or did these exposures, these value-based exposures take some time?
Yeah, at first it took some time to like master it, if that makes sense. So again, I was going to like saying going to more coffee shops with my friend Carol and or my family. It did take time. I was still feeling it to a degree, but probably about after a month, it started to really click. And then overall, it took me about, I started really doing this in December, January time. I went to that concert in July. So about, yeah, 6, 7 months.
Amazing. And were there any stages that were blips in the road, bumps on the road? What were they like for you?
Yeah, I mean, my eyes did dart sometimes. And also, like I say, when I was started doing exposures where I'd walk by myself around town places, it could be very nerve-wracking. And I could think, oh, I'm walking behind someone that, oh, they might think I'm a stalker and things like that because of the staring. Um, and that was hard. Again, I gave myself again the compassion and told myself that it's just OCD. It doesn't define who I am. I know what this monster is, even though it's trying its very best to put me down that rabbit hole. Yeah, that person might turn around and say something, or even look. I have the choice again to smile back, or I can even wave at them if I wanted to do so. It just shows that you really have all the power of choice to just throw some back to OCD's face every single time. So yeah, self-compassion was a huge thing that helped, like say, soothe out those bumps, smooth them out, sorry. Same with mindfulness. When I was getting dissociated, even when I was still getting dissociated, getting really triggered, I would use the mindfulness approach. So, for example, when I was sitting in pubs, when that was a value to me as well, sometimes that would happen, but I would then use the tools of mindfulness, and that really, really helped collect myself, being present back in the here and the now, and enjoying what's in front of me, like having a beer, having something to eat, talking to my friend instead of thinking like, are they going to see me staring at them weirdly, or my eyes going to dart at someone, then I don't know, the waiter or waitress might kick me out or something like that. Instead of thinking all those thoughts, I just stay present. And the thing is with this as well, um, it's like when you walk down places, people don't even look at you really anyway. They just go about their business, like we all do. And it's just remembering that and keeping that mindfulness aspect. Like you can look around where you are, like at buildings, trees, the ocean, whatever you like, and you can take that in and relearn, like feel the wind around you if it's a nice wind, obviously, if it's freezing like now. And the smells, like anything, if it's a nice smell, or even if it's a bad smell, anything that use your senses that can just bring you back and feel again that peace, something you enjoy, like say surrounding yourself with. And again, when I was seeing my friend Carol, the town I went to called Beverly, it's a beautiful town, very English. Um, it is just a nice place. And that's what I was taking, looking at the scenery around where I was, instead of focusing on my worst worries.
This is so cool. And it's all the tools that we talk about, right? And you've put them into practice. And it sounds like, and maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong or right about this, but it sounds like you were all in with these skills too. Like you weren't messing around, like you were ready for recovery. Is that true? Or did you have times where you kind of weren't all in?
I'll probably, yeah, there were times where I wasn't all in. I suppose when I was I also like to latch yourself with me if I feel unworthy. That is still, I know it's different to staring OCD. I'm still trying to tackle that sometimes, and that can be difficult. But again, I use the same tools. But yeah, with like I say, doing exposures with VTO, I would say I was all in, because I know that if I didn't, it's going to be hard to reclaim my life back. I have a choice to act and use the tools that I know that's going to work, because I've seen Chris do it. So it's like, well, I can do it. I've seen Carol do it. That means I can do it. So I'm going to do it. And that's what gave me the belief and inspiration to go all in. Because again, no, it reached out to the community with the support. If it was a hard time, I'd reach out. The community are massive. The connection they have and like say again, the empowerment and the belief they can give you and the encouragement is just, oh, it's amazing. It's game changing. It can just light you up straight off the bat when you need it most. And then you can go out and face that big, scary thing. And you can do it. You can overcome it because other people have. That means you can too. It's absolutely possible. Like having that like warrior, some of my groups, warrior badass mindset, I like to call it. You absolutely go in there with that, and you can do it. You can absolutely do it.
So tell us now, I know you've shared with me a little bit privately, but can you tell us now, like, what your big agenda, what your big goal is right now in the work you're doing? Because it's really exciting.
Sure, I'll be glad to do. I am now officially a professional peer support worker. So I would, if anyone would love to reach out to me, I am here. Like, it's my biggest passion. I love it. It's like the ultimate reward in a career. When you can help someone in their journey in recovery, and like even empower each other or inspire, motivate, and help with strategies that's worked for you, and you can pass on them tools to someone else who really needs it, or is still going through the process where it's quite sticky with OCD. There's nothing more rewarding than that. Because for me, when I was at my most severe, when I was in my darkest place, it felt like a void. It felt like I was just walking through a blizzard of nothing. Having someone there to speak to who gets it, who truly gets it, and can be really authentically there for you to really say, you can do this. I'm going to do it with you. Let's do it. Like, really, let's do it. Bring it on. Let's do it. Let's kick this thing's butt. It's huge. You really, lay the smack down on OCD. It's just massive. For me, if I had that when I was going through it, again, I had a great therapist, but if I had a peer support worker, if I was aware that if they were around, I wasn't unfortunately at that time, I probably would have reached out because it's a huge tool. It's amazing. Just to like, even if you're, just to connect with someone in general and just have a talk can make all the difference. One conversation, I believe, can change everything in that moment of what that person's darkness may be.
Right.
So yeah, I'm like super, super excited with that.
Very, very exciting. And of course, at the end, I'll have everyone you give us links on how to get to you, just so people know what peer support counseling is or peer support is. Do they need to have a therapist who's on the team? Like, what does peer support? What is it that they need in order to start peer support?
Yeah, I mean, you could have a therapist. I mean, I know peer support workers do work with therapists. I know Chrissy Hodges, I've listened to her podcast, and she does that. I think it may be the same with Shannon Shai as well. I'm not too sure. I think as well, it's up to the person when what they're going through. Like, if they would want to at first reach out to a peer support worker that they know truly understands them, that can be great. And that peer support, like say, like myself, can then help them find a therapist that's going to really help them, like with their theme, or not just their theme, like an OCD specialist, like who gets it, who's going to give them the right treatment. So that can be really, really, really beneficial. So yeah.
I know that we've worked with a lot of peer support, well, some peer support providers, and it was really good because for the people let's say we have set them up with exposures and they're struggling to do it in their own time, the peer support counselor has been so helpful at encouraging them and in reminding them of the tools that they had already learned in therapy. And I think you're right. I think knowing you're not alone and knowing someone's done it. And I think there's also just nice to have someone who's just a few steps ahead of you. That can be very, very inspiring for somebody.
Absolutely. And again, like having a peer support work with a therapist, that's amazing. Because again, for recovery, that's just going to amplify it massively. It's like having an infinite gauntlet on your hand against OCD. It's got no chance down the long run. No, it's incredibly powerful, and I love that. And again, like you said, Kim, it's like when someone, let's say, they know that has reached that mountaintop of recovery and that they look at that and thinking, well, I want to do the same thing. I know it'd be great to connect with that person, even like say learn from them, or again just to have that connection can make a huge, huge, huge difference. Again, to know that they can open up to other people, and it's like again for me, it's climbing up that another mountaintop with someone else from the start, but to know I've got the experience, but I get to climb that mountaintop with them.
Yeah. So powerful. So before we finish up, will you tell us where people can get a hold of you if they want to learn more? And also if there's anything that you feel we could have covered today that we didn't, like a main last point that you want to make?
Sure. People can reach out to me, and I'm going to try and remember my tags. My Instagram tag is Matt Bannister 27, or Matt Bannister underscore 27. Sorry. I think my Facebook is Matthew.Bannister92. If you just type in Matthew Bannister, it'll be in the show notes as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that you can reach out to me on there. I am at the moment going to create a website, so I will fill more onto that later as well. But yeah, that's on my email. Sorry, is matt3ban@hotmail.com, which is probably the best way to reach out to me.
Amazing. And anything else you want to mention before we finish up?
Yeah, I believe everyone listening, no matter what darkness you're going through, no matter what OCD is putting in your way, you can overcome it. You can do it. And as you say brilliantly as well, Kim, it's a beautiful day to do hard things. And you can make that as every day because you can do the hard things. You can do it. You can overcome it, even though sometimes it might think it's impossible or it's too much. You can do it. You can get there. Even if it takes baby steps, you're allowed to give yourself that compassion and grace to do so. It doesn't matter how long it takes. Like Ethan Smith says so well, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And when you reach that finish line, and you will, it's the most freeing feeling, and you will all get there. You will all absolutely get there if you're going through it.
Thank you so much for being on. For the listeners, I actually haven't heard your story until right now, too. So this is exciting for me to hear it. And I feel so inspired. I love the most that you've taken little bits of advice and encouragement from some of the people I love the most on this planet, right? Ethan Smith, Liz McInvale, Chris Tronston, Katie O'Dunn. Like, these are people who I learn from because they're doing the work as well. And I love that you've somehow bottled all of their wisdom in one thing and brought it today, which I'm just so grateful for. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And again, they're just heroes to me. So, and yourself as well. So thank you everything you do as well for the community. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Anytime.